I know you're confused about cancer, but we're not confused at all. And there are 5 main food items that the World Health Organization has identified as potential carcinogens. If you consume these foods in excessive amounts, unfortunately, your risk of cancer will increase. If you don't want to get cancer, which is the second most common cause of death after cardiovascular diseases, at an early age, stay away from these 5 items. Now, without further ado, let's get into potentially carcinogenic foods. At the top of the list of potentially carcinogenic foods, that is, foods with a high risk of causing cancer, are processed meats. I know they're sold everywhere. Processed meat products include salami, sausages, and sukuk. This refers to sukuk that has been heat treated. Especially when you go to the supermarket and enter the salami and sausage section, know that most of these are heat treated sukuk, salami, and sausages, and excessive consumption of these products is classified as Class 1, that is, first-class carcinogens by the World Health Organization. In other words, if your diet frequently includes products like salami, sausage, and sukuk, you are increasing your risk of cancer. The potential substances here are nitrites and nitrosamines. Nitrites and nitrosamines, which are added to these products to extend their shelf life, significantly increase the risk of cancer. In second place, there is a substance I don't really like, red meat. Unfortunately, excessive consumption of red meat increases the risk of cancer due to the heterocyclic amines it contains. Red meat is a high-quality food source. No matter how high quality or how bioavailable a protein source red meat is, excessive consumption increases the risk of cancer. The studies are very clear. Excessive consumption of red meat significantly increases the risk of colon, pancreatic, and prostate cancers. It would be best if you do not consume more than 600 grams of red meat per week. Third on the list are trans fats. You mostly find trans fats in processed pastries, margarines, and fast food. So when you consume these products excessively, when you frequently buy pastries from bakeries, or when you often eat the fast food commonly served at those franchise restaurants, unfortunately, you are increasing your risk of cancer. Unfortunately, trans fats are not listed on the label. Even if it says contains no trans fats on the back of the package, it may still contain trans fats. In fact, nowadays, even margarine packages can have the label contains no trans fats, because if the amount is below a certain threshold, this label can be added. However, trans fats may still be present in their composition. If you don't want to say, do I have to check for trans fats in everything, doctor? It would be best to stay away from ready-made pastry products, fast food, and products containing margarine. Fourth on the list is acrylamide. Acrylamide is actually the burnt form of asparagine, an amino acid that naturally exists in our bodies and that we need to consume. When asparagine amino acid is exposed to high temperatures, it changes form and turns into acrylamide. Acrylamide is a potential carcinogen. So where do you encounter acrylamide? If a product is heated rapidly, acrylamide forms in its structure. In other words, almost all fried foods contain acrylamide, and acrylamide increases the risk of cancer. Acrylamide means reaching high temperatures quickly. For example, if you cook your food in the oven, the acrylamide level will remain low. Because food in the oven cooks slowly. Food cooked in a pot will cook more slowly. But since an air fryer cooks faster, the amount of acrylamide is higher. Because deep frying cooks very quickly, fried foods in general are a source of acrylamide. Even if you fry a very healthy fish, the amount of acrylamide will increase and so will the risk of cancer. To reduce your acrylamide risk, avoid foods that cook quickly, heat up fast, or are fried. Alcohol comes in 5th place. In the past, there was a belief that consuming alcohol in small or moderate amounts would not cause any harm. There were even statements from heart doctors like, drink red wine. This has now been abandoned. The less alcohol, the better. Completely eliminating alcohol is the habit that benefits us the most. Because alcohol consumption increases the risk of all digestive system cancers and also increases the risk of breast cancer. That is, from our mouth all the way to the anus, oral cancers, esophageal cancers, stomach cancer, intestinal cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Alcohol increases the risk of all of these. So how does alcohol do this? Alcohol disrupts the DNA repair mechanism. Alcohol is the toxic form of sugar. Alcohol in the form of acetaldehyde causes serious damage to the liver, disrupts our DNA repair mechanisms, leads to an increase in free oxygen radicals, reduces our antioxidant capacity, and causes us to get sick more often, even increasing the risk of cancer. Alcohol not only increases the risk of cancer, but also raises the risk of cardiovascular disease and arrhythmia. I would also like to point out that alcohol-related steatohepatitis, that is, fatty liver and inflammation, increases the risk of cirrhosis. If you don't want to increase your risk of cancer, stay away from these 5 foods. Cancer is an unpleasant disease. No one wants to suddenly be diagnosed with cancer. A healthy life is waiting for you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications.